Well, I'm back again. We're going to call this part two of part one. Um, I guess the amount of time for the video ended, and so I lost you. So this is part two. And I was just saying, that's not dirty water. It's not dirty water. It's just a mixture of some things I put in a spray bottle just to spray. Some beneficial things for the worms. If I feel the bin's getting a little dry, I might spray it in there. I'm about 3/4 up. I'm just gonna add a little bit more, but like I said, I don't just drop it in. I kind of mix it up and kind of get it good. So, but that works out good for me. And like I was saying, we got to think about the worms. We're making a home for them. We're keeping them where they just can't go and get. So, yes, they are composting worms where they will eat and eat. You know, and people hear that the worms will eat 3 times their weight. And people wind up just overfeeding them. And you don't want to overfeed them. You just want to give them enough food. And even if it means you got to feed them every 2 or 3 days. I would rather feed my worms every 2 or 3 days than to pile a bunch of food in here. And when I do mine, I don't put solid food. Only time I do solid foods if I have watermelon rind, cantaloupe rind, banana peels, or corn cobs. That's the only solid food I might put in my bin. That I put in my bin, not might. That I put in my bin. Anything else, I don't. I don't put a piece of broccoli in there, because that's where you get all that extra moisture from. You know, think about it. If you leave that out on the counter and let that stuff start to rot and ferment on your counter, what winds up happening? How much water is going to be in that container? So think of that moisture that you're adding into your bin, which makes your bin very wet. You know, if you take a piece of I took a piece of pumpkin, I froze it, put it in the freezer, let it freeze, took it out, I let it sit on the counter, let it defrost. There was a lot of water in the bag when I got home from work. I emptied that water out. I came downstairs to feed them. I fed a couple of them. I had 2 pieces left in the bag. I started doing something else. Before I knew it, I never touched it again. It slipped my mind to go back and get the bag. I came back downstairs 2 days later. The amount of water that was in that bag that came out of the 2 pieces of pumpkin, I could have filled up a glass and had my daily amount of water that I should have. So that's how much water is going into your bin. So it's not good to overfeed the bin. Put enough in there that they can eat, and then that's good. Someone might look at my bin and say I'm starving my worms, but as you can see, they're healthy, they're multiplying, getting a lot of castings out of it. So, just out of the last 2 times that I actually did 3 bins, I got 2 5-gallon buckets of it, full. So I don't think like this one we just did today. I filled up the rest of it. It's full. That's it. You know, so that's fine with me. That's a lot of castings. And for me, I do 3 months. 3 months works for me. So some people do it for 4 months, 6 months. It just depends on the size of your bin and how many worms you have in there. I have quite a bit of worms in each bin. I have 10 bins. And with 10 bins, I have no problem getting the castings or having enough worms multiplying in here. So I have a big bin over here. I'll just move the camera. That big bin right there, that's actually has the my table on top. That's what I use to after I sift them to clean out the worms. That bin, I guarantee you probably has about 2,000 or 3,000 worms in it. Probably 2,000 worms in it. They just multiplies. I put the babies back in there. But that's what we do. And this is one of my. I cut everything up to the size that I need, but this is what how I make the bins. You know, I take this rigid styrofoam, and it's insulation, so it's rated. It's R rated. It's, you know, it's a 5.0 on the rating for this particular foam. I just put it together, hot glue it. I got the top there. I put the top, and that's a bin for me. And that bit's about a foot wide and probably 18 to 20 inches. Well, actually, it's going to probably be a little smaller, probably about 18 inches inside. That's a good size bin for me, you know, and it's probably 8 inches from top to bottom height. So I could do 6 inches of product in there, and I can have no problem with the worms. Maybe one day I'll make a video gluing it all together, but at this time I don't really need it. But this was one of my bins. I don't know if you could tell, but inside I glued the rest of this just to make it higher. It was actually smaller. It was probably only about 3 inches high. I put all the baby worms in there and piece of paper over the top. They never crawled out. They got big. I put them in one of my bins that didn't produce a lot of worms. I added it to that. I had to put a bottom on it because when I cut the rest of it off, I have these holes from the glue. So I just made it 2 inches, a little over 2 inches, 2.5 inches higher. I'll fill this up with bedding, put the baby worms in there, and I'll have my another wormery, you know. So that's what I do. But what I'll do is I'll wait a week after I put the worms back in, give them some time to get acclimated to back to their home, and then I have some cantaloupe I got. My wife was so nice to go get me a couple of cantaloupes, so I've been sharing with the worms. So I have some the rinds. I'll put a couple of 3 pieces of rinds in here, and then they'll start to come up and gnaw on that, and then I'll start to feed them again. But I'll wait a week, give them a minute. Plus, they got some food in there anyway. So I appreciate you guys looking at my video. Any comments, any suggestions, please leave them in the comment box. I would love to hear what people have to say or think, or any suggestions. So I greatly appreciate you coming by and watching my video of New Era Gardener. This is what we do. Vermiculture, and we get worm compost out of it. So I appreciate you coming by. Thanks. Have a nice day.